I took my fourth year high school in a city called Sorsogon City. Back in 2004 to 2005, I graduated my high school from Emilianum College Incorporated, and I took my first year college at the Lewis College in TLC. And fast forward 21 years later, I'm able to come back here in this venue to speak for you guys and share with you my personal commitments, my company, corporate social responsibilities. And I believe for those who have been fortunate enough to work in the forefront of technology, have Julie to share what we have learned, especially with the next generation of youngsters who will build our nation future. Moreover, I'm not here just to talk about the technology. I'm here to share insightful real-world strategies that can help the government agencies to empower our young youth to build faster, more efficient, and citizen-focused public services. And the key to that future, as we explore today, is a powerful concept called serverless architecture. So about the company, Strastan stands for strategic, which is a core element of our digital marketing arm with marketing automations, and standard IT solutions labeled in one brand representation. Kaya may dalawang kulay blue na S, and that's why it's STRA for strategic and stand for standard. It was formed from the synergy of two different extensive backgrounds from IS and IT solutions and digital marketing with marketing automation. So it's a family corporation. We are a startup. We are and we are continuously growing. So the next slide, the BCall promise. So why BCall, right? So okay, let me share more insight about this. First, let's cultivate the excellence where you are. Okay, I believe our audience, if not all, at least 95% are from Bicol region. I'm not sure if everyone, how much of our demographic are based in Daet. Some are maybe from Legazpi, some are maybe from Kamsur, some are from maybe Sorsogon. So everybody here is welcome, whether you're from Bicol or outside Bicol. This session is for you. Next is, I want to be comfortable. I don't want to talk so formal. I don't want to give a lot of, kumbaga nakaka-nosebleed. Well, kailangan siyang Englishin, pero kasi mas ma-deliver ko siya ng maayos in English. Pero magtataglish naman ako as we go on. So, why do I say NCR grass isn't greener? Cultivate your own. Untapped potential for tech innovation and growth in Bicol. Because I believe where there is a lot of problems, there is definitely more opportunities for solutions. So we nurture areas where we don't have a lot of competitive and undeserved regions who have not the direct access to the modern technology and today fast-paced evolving especially with the existence of agentic AIs and AI era, we are opening the gates to the people from the region of Bicol and from all other tier 2 provincial schools. We are here to bridge the gap of academic to real-world scenarios and a statement of problems. So we will dive deeper into that a little bit later. So success starts with the local talent and tech investment. So the challenge for today, which is the modernizing for the Filipino people, basically our mission here is to deliver fast, reliable, and accessible public services. However, traditional IT services, IT infrastructure, often present some challenges like high cost. O bakit high cost? Sabihin natin isang school, when they get hardware, it's expensive to to accommodate a forecasted capacity. The server maintenance, yung pambayad sa kuryente, everything ahead of that has to be planned thoroughly and procedurally submitted for budget requests and everything else, right? Which some of these servers could, that we are paying ahead of time could run for maybe idle for some days, some time. Of course, we cannot right size it off the bat immediately. Another problem is scaling issues. So itong mga systems na to, paminsan pwedeng mag-crash kapag dumadami yung user or like when the system is at its peak demand, like sabihin natin national ID registration, or let's say, I'm just gonna give some guess, okay? I'm not familiar with every system in the government. But just for argument's sake, sabihin natin ayuda distribution or taxation deadlines, di ba? So, another problem is slow innovation. So bakit ko nasabi yan? Kasi it could take you months to years to launch or update a simple public-facing application due to, maybe bureaucratic process and so much procedures, budget availability, and so many other procedural and regulatory factors. And sometimes you have built something and then you have to scrap it and rebuild it from scratch. And that is contributing to the statement of the problem. Other stuff would be, let's say, operational burden. O, sabihin natin, ano yung operational burden natin? Let's say technical teams spend more time managing the servers or babysitting the hardware rather than focusing on their code or programming or the stability of your system, more in a holistic view, building the valuable citizen services, right? So how do we overcome all of this? We need a more agile, cost-effective, and resilient approach, okay? So here I have with me a very simple table, okay? So I'm going to introduce serverless in a very freestyle, okay? I'm not gonna give you booky or some sort of bookworm or academic theories here. Technically, serverless, as compared to traditional IT infrastructure or the hardware and the server hosting, back in the days, maybe some of the panelists here or some of the people in audience from this call can relate, especially if you have been in the industry for a few decades. We are very much used to web application and database, web application server and database, the typical monolithic architecture, right? And we have to provision servers and manage them, pay for servers 24/7, even if they're idle. So sometimes we have to pay monthly, or we have to, alam ko sa government or other institutions, we usually commit before. Back in the days, we used to commit per year or per 2 year or 3 year, depends on the validity of the contract. So what happens next after the first and third year? Do we have to scrap it and then shut it down? So that's gonna impact what the people and what the citizens got used to and kill the user experience, right? And other aspects, I would say manual scaling is very difficult as your data grows. The scaling would be very slow and complex, especially if you're dealing with RDBMS, like any relational database management system, like the legacy SQL, MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, whatever is bound for ACID principle or consistency. It's very hard to expand. As your data grows, you have to do a lot of vertical scaling than horizontal scaling. I'll explain what is horizontal and vertical scaling. So in a nutshell, ang vertical scaling is, meron ka kunyari ngayon let's say one server, isipin mo yung server is just like a personal computer. Naka i5 ka ngayon, pang 5th generation siya, then hindi mo naman siguro na naisip na yung users mo can reach up to millions, and eventually bumigay yung computer. So how do you manage those scalability and orchestration? That's called scaling. Minsan kailangan mo pa i-shut down yung application, mag-upgrade ka pa, then how much time you lost in that loss of service. Usually ginagawa siya sa weekend. Pero when you restore the service, it should be up to serve the Filipino citizens, right? So that's an effort. That's quite an effort to do that, especially if you have a large database and if the knowledge exists with stable people, stable team, the people are always available. So these are all contributing challenges with the traditional IT services. And fixed capacity, yun. Fixed capacity, hindi natin alam paano yung right sizing ng mga machines when it comes to building hardware or kumbaga magpapakode ka ng hardware para lang ma-establish mo yung experience. But the question is, when you establish that experience, for how long? Do you have longevity? Do you have a stability? Are you going to shut it down 2 years or 3 years after and come up with a new idea? So panibagong experience na naman, right? So here we are introducing serverless to just run your code, not servers. Okay. So how does it work? It's very simple. It does not require you to do a single step with servers. Cloud providers provide you the servers, they manage it, they patch it, they do a lot of time-consuming steps, and in fact, they have a lot of autonomous process, which are pretty much automated in terms of monitoring, observability, resiliency, scaling. So everything that was in the traditional IT problem is there, and it also lowers your TCO, which stands for total cost of ownership. So yung TCO, malaking factor kasi yan. Instead of you buying, for example, I don't know, tens of grants of US dollar servers, or maybe rent it for some years, depending on the budget allocated to you, you can just go and save a lot of that and focus more on the people governing and upscaling them to focus on the quality of the code and run the code, not the servers. Because you can just run code in milliseconds for every step and pay only for what you use. And additionally, it also auto scales from 0 to millions. So depende kung kung lumaki yung traffic per second dun sa hindi ka obligado mag-maintain ng hardware. So yan yung mga key benefits, and most importantly, yung pagiging elastic and event-driven niya. Okay? So let's think about it this way. Ang serverless ay isang cloud computing model to where yung cloud provider mo, may shared responsibility model siya, which is siya na bahala sa lahat ng provisioning ng server, everything, without you worrying a single complexity. You simply write your code and deploy it. Think of it like parang just like your Meralco bill. You're just using the electricity. Wala ka naman power plant or sariling maybe solar panel, di ba? You're just plugging and grid plug into the grid and pay for the electricity use, just like that. So serverless is basically like your utility grid for your application code. So I hope it starts to make a lot of sense from this slide. So next is the bucket. Okay, why serverless for PH government? It's a good question. First of all, the serverless directly addresses key public sector challenges, making it very powerful tool para sa mga digital transformation natin. Okay? First is budget efficiency. Kagaya nung binanggit ko kanina, yung hindi naman natin alam always how much it costs. Basta may na-reserve kang budget, you are only good for a few years, maybe not forever. Because these systems have to evolve, and we don't have to worry about the modernizing the hardware, but rather modernizing our system and source code, right? So it drastically reduces your cost. Instead of paying for a server to run 24/7 for a form that is only used maybe 100 times a day, or you never know, 1,000 times it's kumbaga siya para sa atin, hindi natin ma-anticipate exactly yung daily consumption and utilization unless we get the historical data, maybe in the past 6 months, 1 year. Ito yung statistic. Ang tanong and ang problema is, meron ba tayong record? of those statistics. If we have, we can actually right size and even make you more safe in the budget. So that's very important. That's one of the challenges that the government would face eventually. Maybe if not every 2 years, 3 years, or every year, it will happen at least in between 1 to 2, 3 years. Then we have to again evolve and scrap and rebuild. Okay. Then the next thing is massive scalability. Effortlessly handle the massive scalability will let you effortlessly handle unpredictable demand, like yung na-mention ko kanina, and whether it's a nationwide emergency alert or viral social welfare, sabihin natin, bumaha sa Bicol, o kailangan natin ng tulong, paano natin may alert? Well, bukod na meron tayong NTC and other large giant tech giant telco collaboration with the government to do the advisory over the cell phone. There must be also the availability of service in any aim or in any aid, right? So the Filipino people, the Filipino citizens have to have that accessibility on the go without having to worry about anything. And it should be nationwide, not just regionally, but also nationwide. I'm looking at the bigger picture. So that can scale from unpredictable demand from maybe 0 to thousands to millions of traffic, right? Alangan naman, pag for example, dumami yung mga requests, bigla nag-down yung server. So one thing that I can assure you with serverless, you can never go down because of its replication mechanism. It goes across different availability zone and region. I'll explain that more in further detail. Yes, I can see 2 questions. Let me pause a little bit in the Q&A. So ano po ang risk ng serverless compared sa traditional server hoster? Okay, I have this question from Linmark. Well, the serverless does not have any risk. Okay, it actually helps the programmers to code more conveniently according to their language of choice. There are a number of there's a wide range of supported frameworks and runtime, not limited to Java, C#, .NET. We are a heavy Node.js user, Python. There's Go, Golang, Ruby. There's a lot. You can actually import your custom runtime, and all you have to care is about building a scalable functions per service. So if you guys remember my motto, do it small, do it often, and do it faster. So the smaller you make your functions, the more it's manageable to measure and to maintain. And separation of concern siya. Hindi katulad ng RDBMS o marami kang relationship, foreign key, primary key. Ay, wait lang. Nagkamali ako dito, kailangan ko i-down or kailangan ko i-renormalize or you have to expand. It's very hard in terms of expansion when your data is at growth. That's one of the main key problems with RDBMS. I'm not against RDBMS. That's where I also evolved my technical skills from coming as a traditional C# developer, full stack developer. I use SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and a lot others. But these days, there are technologies that give you more freedom, like NoSQL, MongoDB. There is Couchbase if you want, with the minimal adjusting on the learning curve para hindi masyado steep. You can use Couchbase. May tinatawag silang Nickel, N1KQL. Yun yung parang selling point nila. You can still use yung parang SQL command to do queries, pero ang ini-interact nyo is key value pairs, which is yung NoSQL unstructured data. I have another question. So technically, wala siyang risk, okay? There is no risk because it's highly available and highly scalable. It runs compute power on demand. You have nothing to worry about the compute power to run your code. So Alfred asking, how is serverless tech mature already? Is it resistant from failures? I think hindi ko alam kung naintindihan ko yung question ng maayos, but I think one thing you're asking is about the maturity framework and the resistance from failures. Well, like I said, serverless is built for developers who want to just run code. So if your code runs well, you have all the dependencies by looking at the SDK. Everything runs according to the syntax, then it should run according to serverless, because there will be a function URL where you can just invoke the function by using Postman or other development tools. It leverages the event-driven. I'm going to answer some of the questions in a bit later. I just want to finish this. I'll come back to some of the questions again. I want to really keep a continuous flow of doing Q&A, maybe by letting people unmute and introduce themselves, and let's have an interactive discussion. Siguro continue ko lang konti. Some of the answers that you guys are, some of the questions that you're asking, the answer can be actually found. Okay, so just to move on, please just go ahead and write your questions. I will come back after Alfredo's questions onwards. So the other reason, yung para dun sa bakit, is yung faster service delivery. So you can just launch and iterate on citizen services in days or weeks, not months anymore. So hindi mo kailangan buuin yung buong system para sabi mo, ready na siya. No, you can test it online. It's fast and it's reliable. This agility allows agencies to be more responsive to the public needs and enhance resilience and disaster recovery. Like I mentioned, katulad ng mga baha, mga ganon. So it builds a top of globally redundant infrastructure. Service architectures are inherently more resilient to hardware failures. So ito yung sagot para dun sa nagtatanong ng yung risk and point of failures. So there are hundreds or maybe thousands of data centers behind compute power, and the cloud providers take care of it to give you enough compute power. Maybe you only need a few milliseconds and a few KBs to run your code. So it's just 1 in trillions of the compute power you need. So you just pay for what you use. And there is like cloud providers like AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, Alibaba, they all have pretty generous number of free tiers for you to get started. So that's also another maybe useful information for you. Next, so the core concept, thinking in events. If you guys remember, I talked, we made mentions about event-driven. So when you want to modernize and you want to build scalable systems, you need event-driven pattern. So what is event-driven? So an event is anything that happens, like for example, a citizen submits a form, a sensor reports the data, and the payment is fulfilled and processed, right? So how many steps is that? It could be 3 simple high-level steps. You submit, you push the request, a sensor will fill it, and then gives back a response. That 3-step action can actually happen probably in microseconds, right? It's an interaction. In your traditional practices, it's like the connection string to SQL, and then you do select statement and it comes back to you. But I want you guys to unlearn what you know from the school, from the traditional approach, because this is a different method where you leverage APIs, which is application program interface. That's the protocol for you to communicate with third-party systems by providing the payload request and get your response, right? Now, behind the scene, that code can do some other complex tasks as well. As far as you know, it's a backend code, right? Next. So it's also, like I said, yung tatlong step na yun, it has a reaction. A service validates the submitted document. And the second reaction would be a service notifies the citizen via SMS that the application was received, or whatever notification service that you intend to use, right? So in an event-driven architecture, guys, ang applications are usually composed composed of yung mga maliliit na services. It's really built lightweight. There are independent services to react to these events. So this is a very important keynote to remember. This is the natural foundation of the serverless. So itong mga reactions na nangyayari, they are independently and in parallel creating a fast and resilient system. Okay, so I hope this tree makes a little bit insightful, and kind of later on I will visualize it for you. Let's make it more interactive, not so much theoretical. Sige. In this slide, I just want to first ask, maliit pa masyado yung slide, or is it readable, legible? Itong vertical layout. Can everybody read it? Okay, so I have provided a sample use case. Let's say, sabihin natin, digital permit application portal. Okay, so dito, kung ito ay isang cloud platform, ito ang user mo. Kapag magsasubmit siya ng form sa loob ng web portal mo, itong web portal mo, pwedeng kung saan mo siya binild. Let's say kung Angular yan, Next.js, React, whatever front-end presentation layer you have. So you submit the form, then it fires an API, and then it displays the confirmation. As simple as that, right? But what happens behind the scene, right? And how does it scale as it grows? There is a service called API Gateway. You can maybe Google it. An API Gateway, it's a very reliable service in some of the cloud providers that lets you create endpoints. Tapos yung mga endpoints mo ay nakabound sa mga function as a service, which are yung mga serverless functions. So ito yung, andito yung heavy lifting. So where you actually put your code here in submit function, and then you can further decouple those relationship of workflow into something we call asynchronous processing pattern. Okay, so when you say asynchronous processing pattern, what does it mean? It means they are independent of their own reactions. It's just a simple request and response, right? What if you have like relationship, you have to wait for something? That's why we call it event-driven architecture, because it's eventually consistent. So we can build other number of functions to orchestrate it later on. We can deep dive later in the session about it. But just to think about it, if you have a number of functions, there is a service called queue, or we call it SQS in AWS, for example, which you can choose some queue type, or queue. There are some type of queues. We usually leverage FIFO. It's the first in, first out. Okay, it's like a message queue. And then it triggers the processor. The processor function saves the data in your preferred database, be it a NoSQL or DBMS, doesn't matter. And then from there, there is another event that will get triggered. You see all those triggers. So it's an event to event. That's why it's called event-driven architecture, because you're calling from one event response, retriggering another event. So it becomes asynchronous. And the event notifier will run another function code that you have probably built in another language, and it's also on the cloud. And then it will send this status update to the person. Now you might be wondering, ba't ang komplikado naman? Gano'ng katagal yun? Believe it or not, it takes less than a second. Sometimes depends on how monolithic your code is, how clean you code, how you refactor it. As much as possible, like I said, keep the motto, do it small, do it often, and do it faster. Because the smaller it is, the faster it runs. So if you decouple your monolithic approach into smaller functions, function per service, this can just run in a matter of milliseconds. Okay, it's just one capability, right? So it's actually the same. I just the same. These are the same diagram. I just iniba ko lang yung style. So this is a C4 component level 3 sort of diagram. It's the same procedure. Makaibang drawing now. Okay. Another use case would be, let's say, a nationwide emergency alert system. Ito yung binabanggit ko kanina sa inyo. Like, for example, if here's how you can typically broadcast a critical alert, like pag-asa typhoon, warning, mga ganon, to multiple systems instantly. So, iba naman itong klaseng, it's like a different type of event-driven architecture. Okay? We call this fan out. Para siyang electric fan, fina-fan out mo siya. So the fan out design pattern, are you guys familiar with the PubSub? So publisher, subscriber, and publisher. So it's the same. It's basically using the same concept, but it's very convenient. It's also with the power of serverless architecture. So sabihin natin, you have public service advisor or public service delivery. You need to tap a lot of channels, right? For example, under citizen services, you have digital identity, depending on how you classify your intent. So sabihin natin e-government forms, permits, and license applications, healthcare, vaccine tracking, appointments, citizen feedback forms, platforms. These are just high level, okay? I haven't deep dive. I'm not going to deep dive into the details of it, just to show you the idea that how we do the mind map in a fan out design pattern. So once one event gets triggered over here, it splashes the whole event, flashes all across all the platforms. It's instant. So it leverages the fan out design pattern, which is a very powerful feature of event-driven system. One event trigger can just do many parallel actions, ensuring rapid and wide-reaching communication during a crisis. Okay, so next is so yun. Of course, above all of this, yung security, syempre dapat tinitingnan natin, right? So when you're using a serverless architecture, you're complying with the security and compliance, basically yung building with trust, right? So how do we adopt serverless that requires a modern approach to security, focusing on identity and data? Okay, so of course there is data sovereignty and residency. What does it mean? It means yung major cloud providers katulad ng Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services or Azure or any other cloud providers, they have regions in Asia Pacific. So if it's a government or public sector, of course, you want to make sure that your data resides within your region and within your sovereign, yung boundary ng where you have legal boundaries and jurisdiction, you can control that. Where your data resides, for example, you want to keep it within the Singapore, there are some edge optimized edge optimized endpoints in the Philippines as well. So there are some availabilities. So that helps you to retrieve your data faster. Okay, so you control where your data resides, ensuring it stays within the legal boundaries. Next is yung tinatawag natin security best practices. Underneath security best practices, may tinatawag tayong IAM, which is the Identity Access and Management. It will grant serverless functions, yung mga code na dinedeploy nyo sa cloud, with the least privilege necessary, meaning you're not doing permissive actions. A function that sends email should not have permission to read a database, for example. Yun lang yung trabaho niya. So it has fine grained and granularity when it comes to security constraints. Of course, above all, yung mga usual like encryption, data encryption, you can encrypt all your data, both in transit using the TLS protocol and at rest, which is most of the communication these days are REST API, and it's fully secure, even in the database. Okay, so vulnerability scanning. So you continuously scan your code and its dependencies for known security issues. Kung deprecated ba, kailangan ng patching. How do you manage those dependency vulnerabilities? So it's important. These are controlled by the cloud. Okay. And compliance. With regards to compliance, for example, there are some security standards. Sabihin natin, you can actually leverage the cloud provider certification without you worrying about like yung mga ISO 27001, SOC 2, SOC 2. Yung mga IT, maybe students or IT professionals can relate to those factors like in cybersecurity aspect. This reduces the compliance burden on your agency. So you don't have to, the cloud has already done it for you. So observability, yung next is observability. Ano yung gagawin ng observability? When you implement logging, metrics, tracing to monitor the performance, yung tracking your cost, magkano yung nagagastos mo, or like, let's say, troubleshooting the issues in your distributed serverless system. So these are key benefits of building with trust and security. So your agency's serverless journey is a simple roadmap, okay? How will you start, right? Of course, it's not a race, okay? So you have to start small first, okay? Do it small, like I said, do it small, do it often, do it faster. Basic SMART goals. What does a SMART goals mean? A specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Okay? If you keep that within your mindset, trust me, in no time you will be a serverless specialist. Okay? So good candidates here are for example, identify when you're doing, when you want to start small and win big, how do you do that? Identify a low risk but maybe high impact pilot project. Kunyari, meron kayong yung iba may mga ginagawang project, research and development, di ba? Marami kayong ginagawa dyan. Like for example, yung iba, they're doing machine learning. These are massive projects, right? But you can always start with the non-mission critical one and do a proof of concept. Yung POC, na tinatawag natin proof of concept. Do a proof of concept. You got good candidates would be like automating an internal report generation, creating a simple public information chatbot without you needing to run a server, or processing submitted documents, right? How many students have to submit? Sasakit yung ulo ng mga faculty natin if they want to do manual, one by one extract, diba? Why not automate, right? And make an interactive report out of it. So let's work smart, right? Next is upskill your people. If you ask me, of course, I'm not against the academical curriculum, but take it from me, it's based on our experience. We have been observing the technology in the past 5 years, and to be honest, masyado na tayong malayo. I'm not talking about Bicol, I'm talking about in general in the Department of Education. We have to update our curriculums. Well, of course, it's not instant, right? Because what you really learn in the school, probably you will only use 5 to 10%. Today. Why do I say that? Okay. So we have a lot of exit interviews, especially when we work with Bicol University. We have partnered up with Bicol University. We have a lot of, we conducted a good, sets of good batches of virtual internship with our company. And we got really good feedbacks. Kasi sinesurvey namin sila, na tinatanong namin, okay, bago ka pumasok ng Strastan for internship, virtual internship, ano yung level of knowledge mo from academical level? Nung pa-exit ka na, kasi during exit na namin in interview, video siya. I will share some if you want later sa inyo. They rate themselves so confident. They had some steep, of course, learning curves, but that's the level of complexity they go through when we bridge the gap of academic to real world scenarios. A lot of things, especially with the very fast evolving technology these days, lalo na ngayon, AI era na tayo eh. Like, we don't stop our people, while in our own company, we don't stop our people from using AI. I understand the Department of Education could be concerned the faculty could be concerned. But trust me, as a company owner and as a startup owner, we even advise and make it a requirement to make use of AI, but not fully rely on the response of the AI. Sabihin natin, kasi patalino ng patalino yung AI ngayon, di ba? So, if the AI does the 99% of the job consistently, that one little 1% is your job to verify it, right? So this is how easy and fast-paced is technology, to where some foundational information, unfortunately, now doesn't make sense anymore, because you can just do prompts, and in maybe a few snap, you have your front end. A few snap, you have a few back-end functions. Next thing you know, less than a week, you roll out a portal application. So this is what we advise: upskill your people. If it's not yet officially the time, we help educational sectors to. We open a lot of opportunities and gates for public sectors. We're already working with one, which is the Bicol University. We just closed a new contract with Nova Vizcaya until 2029. We started working with private schools first, with Mapua first, and then we started working with the Luis College, where I actually studied 1 year there. Then we are just continuously growing, and we are actually hiring our people from Bicol region, if you believe it or not, because I believe the grass is greener where you water it, where you nurture it. It's not greener in NCR or Metro Manila. As a matter of fact, I have some feedback. Some of our interns and some of our employees from Sorsogon, they came to the recent AWS Cloud Day in Shangri-La. We invited them to join us. There's a lot of giant techs, Globe, Smart, every big company is there, even other banks and other companies are doing speech there. And yung pinapanood nila yung workshops, parang natatawa na lang sila kasi ginagawa nila araw-araw. And then some of the giant companies were actually struggling doing that. Hindi naman sa pagyayabang sa company, pero ang sinasabi ko lang, talents exist, most especially in the public sector, most especially in the even private sector, public sector, even in the regional tier 2 region, Bicol region, or other provinces, because we tested it and we prove it. Our employees, we have 4 to 5 employees from Sorsogon City. They're full stack cloud developers. They're doing a lot of serverless event-driven, like it's their daily more. They're doing more advanced stuff. Right now, they're stepping into agentic AI, agent core. So we're also joining competitions around the world, not just here. So yeah. So this is very important. I want everyone to know that once you graduate, don't close your door. Huwag kayong masyado maging kampante sa natutunan nyo lang sa school. Because malayo-layo po ang need nyong i-adjust so that you can put your foot on the door. Okay? This is the reality. I'm not giving a false hope, but I'm actually creating this image of this vision for everyone who is here to know, to set their expectation and standards above what they are aiming. Because nowadays, cloud practitioners is a prerequisite para ma-hire ka. Okay, so how will you do that, right? If the school is not equipped, if the faculty cannot, due to regulatory requirements, maybe outdated or maybe slow procedure, how can we do that, right? So, of course, we are one of maybe so many other companies or cloud provider partners that help the students at no cost with the virtual internship program to basically mentor them and then kind of sync their knowledge from traditional programming. The foundation they have is good, especially kung OOP. I'm not saying wala kayong magagamit. Well, magagamit nyo 10%, but in reality, when you enter a real-world scenario, it's a different story. Completely different animal. So, later, pag-usapan natin more in an interactive session. So choose the right cloud partner. So I'm not saying exact Camila, if you have to choose us, you can. There's a lot of them. But we are the only so far has opened our gate to Bicol region. And it's really, really working, and we are continuously getting good feedback. And govern and optimize. So yung from day one, implement cost monitoring, set budget alerts, design for multi-cloud or open standards where feasible to avoid vendor lock-in. So hindi niyo kailangan makipag-tie up sa isang tao o teka, parang may contract ka dito. No, you can do on demand and stop anytime you want if you want to stop. But it doesn't mean na inidoro mo yung ginawa mo because you can reuse it elsewhere, right? So that's the perks. One of the good perks for having serverless in the roadmap. Next is, okay, so let's talk about virtual internship program. So it's a project-based learning with real-world applications, mentorship from industry professionals, exposure to full software development lifecycle, especially involving agile principles. We are no longer practicing waterfall. It's too old for us. Incorporating a lot of good CI/CD practices, DevOps. To shape you as a DevOps engineer, it takes us at least 2 years to really shape you as a professional DevOps engineer. But to give you the foundation, probably 500 hours, 400 hours will really be sufficient to get your fingers dirty with this kind of new modernization streams. Focus on collaboration and practical problem solving. Bicol University partnership was our success story. So we have started with one already. It's doing really, really good. So payo ko lang, sana, I think some of the TSS students I noticed marunong naman mag-API, but some pansin ko medyo struggling, not only from Bicol, but also from around the nationwide. We have observed the stock knowledge, and these are the area where we usually upskill our people. API-driven development, REST API design, development, and security, backend architecture best practices, authentication and authorization pattern, documentation and versioning strategies, microservices versus monolithic approaches. Okay? Patapos na rin to, and then I'm going to open the floor for everyone to chime in. Okay? So cloud native infrastructure, which we leverage multi-cloud strategy benefits. We also leverage infrastructure as a code. If you guys have heard about of Terraform, Ansible, yun, mga example yun. In AWS, we use CDKs, Cloud Development Kit. CI/CD pipeline automation, cost optimization, and scaling. Cloud security and compliance. Next is fostering teamwork and collaboration. One problem when we start onboarding people, when we work, we attack the problem together. Attack big problems together. One's problem is everyone's problem. Success is a mutual objective. Okay, so that's the culture we established. Agile methodologies for academic and professional settings. Collaborative troubleshooting techniques. Knowledge sharing practices and platforms like KEDBs, knowledge databases, known errors, building soft skills alongside technical expertise. And yeah, so at this slide, I hope you guys have some insightful intent and vision from our intent here in this call. But we really want to build the future of public service, not just being a bias factor of part of I mean not a partial bias factor of using serverless, but to really envision the people capabilities and skills development aligned to today's fast moving technology. Okay, so curriculum modernization support is a big help to DepEd. I'm pretty sure we are already advanced right now, at least 2 years. It's really, really outdated. Some of the cloud environments have already matured. They have their own maturity frameworks of cloud development kits, software development kits, you name it. faculty development programs. We have some programs for that. Internship pathway opportunities. Joint research and development initiatives. We also have the open gate to help R&D. Long-term regional tech ecosystem development. And there, now I open the floor for Q&A. So my slide is actually done. I have nothing after this. Like, yeah, ito yung last slide ko. Maraming salamat po. But I'm not gonna end here. I'm gonna open the floor and probably continue from where I left off dun sa Q&A. And maybe some people would like to take the advantage to unmute and go ahead and ask questions. So I'm going to stop sharing here so we can have an interactive session. Okay, should I start, other panelists, maybe you want to chime in. Should I start from the offline ones, or do you want to make the floor open for real-time interaction?
Hello, sir. Pwede po nating mag-start po muna tayo sa mga Q&A, and then after po nun, yung mga naka-raisean po, pwede ko pong i-allow to talk para makapagsalita po sila.
Sige. So I'll start from the Q&A, open Q&A na questions, no? Yung kanina nasagot ko yung ano po ang risk ng serverless compared sa traditional, kanina nasagot ko siya. And then anonymous attendee, so he's asking what are main advantages and limitations of using serverless architecture? I think it was part of the slide as well. If you guys recall, yung advantages is this is perfect for computer science students who are major in programming, who are pursuing DevOps, maybe career path. This is you guys are on track for this. It helps you only focus on the consistency of your code, cleanliness of your code, proper event handling, and etc. And it gives you more time instead of like managing the servers to modernize and learn more skills on the cloud level, because on the cloud level has a lot to offer for you to modernize, that you eventually will get rid of the traditional practices that you used to do in your code. Let's say like yung pag-ayos ng message queue. You don't have to necessarily download maybe NPM package or maybe pip library to do some message queue. Okay? So, ganon. Isa yon sa mga advantage. Like, yung monitoring services, you don't have to run like a Grafana or maybe, di ba, other Prometheus, yung mga open source tools to run your, there are some native CloudWatch, let's say sa AWS CloudWatch, Cloud Logs. So these are available. You can actually debug your backend very easily from the cloud level. So as a matter of fact, so sobrang ganda na ng UI ngayon, para na siyang VS Code. Pag binuksan mo, it's not far from VS Code. So yung ang tinatawag namin sa mga function as a service is Lambda. For Google Cloud, it's Cloud Run functions. Or if you guys have used Firebase, Firebase is a commercialized term product of Google Cloud, where it leverages the Google Cloud serverless architecture as well. So if you're a Firebase practitioner, medyo malapit ka na mag-adjust. Yun. I hope I gave you an answer. So Lei is asking, this is applicable to government agency sectors together with DICT? Well, serverless is not holding you back. You can use it anywhere, even if you're for your own personal projects, because serverless, that's the beauty of serverless. You don't need to pay for servers to run your application. So you don't need to look for free hosting services to run your application. You just need to know how your code run. You just need to do a little bit of skills development on serverless, so you can build scalable systems, not necessarily for government agencies. For example, back in the day, I was playing an online game called Mir 4. I don't know. I know for sure that a lot of students here are gamers, silent gamers. So I was playing Mir 4, and then there was no good like calculator to simulate your build. So someone did that with TypeScript and with the help of serverless. Hindi naman siya nagtayo ng server. We just use serverless functions to run the computations, etc. So that's an example of, you know, serverless. So Chester is asking, how can we ensure that entrusting our resources to cloud hosting or serverless is safe? Are they going to manage it with safety protocols? Kung naalala natin yung building with trust and compliance, yun ang nakakasagot ng tanong mo. But I will reiterate that in terms of parang na ano, I think medyo na-edit ata yung question. Wait lang. Yeah. Oh no, someone else is asking. Nawala yung question, I think. But anyways, to answer that, like I said, we have fine-grained and granularity capabilities in cloud where you can control with least privilege access in terms of security for what the function can just do and it's meant to do. So that's the answer. And the security of your data, it depends on how you want to protect your data on the top of cloud security. So in a cloud, there is this thing called the shared responsibility model. It simply means if you Google it, cloud shared responsibility model, malalaman nyo kung ano yung part ng cloud, ano yung part ng consumer. So malaki-laki dun sa part ng, for example, sa AWS, you would be able to see yung software, let's say compute power, storage, database, patching, network, connections, lahat ng hardware and data center related, sila nagmamanage. You just have to put your code, deploy it, and run it. You get your response. And you might need to do some configuration like for the course and for the cross resources origin sharing, which is a usual API error. It's a common error. You have to configure that and whitelist your caller, then okay na siya. Then is this how to protect data? Somebody is asking how to protect data in serverless architecture and what are best practices for securing data privacy. To protect data, there is something they call KMS, okay? Key Management Services. So yung KMS, for example, yung sensitive information, as part of best practices, the traditional way is if you put it in environment variable, right? You can use that too. It's a good approach. We still use that. Or you can do a .env file and then place your sensitive parameters there and do a git ignore, of course. Make sure that it's not going to be exposed. And do not console log your debugging of your printing your credentials or direct exposure of your sensitive information. That's one. There is also services like key management. Like these are encrypted. You can use cloud native encryption, customer cloud managed encryption. You can do also your own managed. So you just have to expose the key. You have to have a key in order to do the decryption and encryption. So that's one way. Then, paano po yung, just a second, I have to take. Hello. Sorry, I had to answer some. So someone was asking, paano po yung procurement process for this? Wait lang, ha? Procurement process for this, is it through billing po ba? Then babayaran muna namin, then reimbursed, or can it be paid through check after? Okay, I know this is a quite challenge. It's a good question, Christian, because the payment model, it requires a credit card, okay? And um, cloud services usually, when they don't directly deal with public sectors. If they do, there must be a very concrete agreement, meaning it's like a do not quote me, or they do not, they have like this pay as you go model. Kaya kami bilang private entities or even personal, you can use your personal if you want to hold the liabilities on your end. So there should be a credit card because since it's a pay as you go model, on demand din yung charging. There are some saving plans. Pwede niyo naman i-access yung, for example, you can pre-purchase some long-term plans, mas makakatipid kayo. So may mga ganon. So there is a ton, I would say it's a forest of calculation. Hindi ko siya lahat maibaba dito sa call na to. You can check some of the resources like Google Cloud pricing model for a particular service. Every service has its own distinct pricing. Okay. So Oscar is asking, since a lot of government sites use WordPress, is it possible to deploy it serverlessly? That's a very good question. How easily is that to manage? WordPress, okay. For WordPress, there is another serverless feature that does not use event-driven, okay? It leverages the containerization. I don't know if you guys are familiarized with Docker, something like that, or Podman. You can leverage another architecture design pattern like microservice, where you can containerize and still leverage the serverless benefits for auto scaling, but it costs more than the serverless, because serverless is really fine-grained siya, lightweight siya, gagawin mo parang function per service if you're building some stuff without completely a server. With regards to containerization, like sabihin natin AWS Fargate o kaya yung cloud containers or Docker, you still need a compute instance. You still need the server, but there's a lot of flexibility options to where you can choose not to get a server and just pay for the containers build time, kasi you're charged per building time, and then it will run your application. Now, if it spikes in terms of performance, it will automatically scale, and you have nothing to worry. May mga ganyang capability po tayo sa cloud. So Herald is asking, I'm a graduating student. Is a Strastan Solutions taking OJT? Of course, we have open gate to back in the days we started, guys. It's minsan nakakaiyak siya kasi we started really with 2 to 3 people. Okay. And then I started nurturing my own leaders, like my own mentors. Like I made my own employees who are originating from Sorsogon. They are now my mentor. They're mentoring the students, the next generation students. And we have done this. We have tried a batch of 25 with Bicol University. It was a very aggressive timeline because for computer science, I think it was only 250 hours. In 250 hours with 25 students, we built over 350 lambdas. That's crazy. Okay. So not only that we built, but we also, on the top of what we taught them, they were able to execute and apply what they were able to do the bridging the gap from their academics to a real world scenario. And the scenarios that we were giving them is actual real world scenarios. These are not like exercises. We're giving them actual scenarios. We asked them to develop it in test environment, and they're able to do it. Okay. So just to set your expectation. And yes, the short answer is yes, we do accept OJT interns. We just need some of the basic procedural from your school to send the memorandum of agreement for how long and with the terms and condition. Then you can just be endorsed by your school, and then by batch. It could be, we prefer by batch. It would be more manageable. Then we can take it from there and then do all the due diligences, grading you, evaluating you, setting you mentorship plan until you complete the number of hours. It's like really a project base, and when you graduate from our internship program, we will actually give you the opportunity to talk about it. For an exit interview, we require actually all of our interns to do a video, and that helps us promote our expertise in the region, of course. We are not really focusing in Metro Manila. Like I said, we are fully focused with Bicol region because I see this as part of my CSR, corporate social responsibility, because um, Bicol has been a part of important part of my life, and 21 years fast forward today, I'm trying to give back what I can and kind of nurture the next generation of leaders. So Ephraim is asking, so under po siya ng subscription, paano po ang mode of procurement sa serverless under 12.009? Okay, hindi ko kabisado ang 12.009. Let me just open and Google it quick. Maybe do you want to unmute and talk? Is this Ephraim? Low field. Okay, just yung nagtanong ng about subscription, paano po yung mode of procurement? What you can do regarding the billing and procurement and everything, that you can set a contact. For example, you can nominate a company that already is a cloud provider partner, like us. For example, we are partnered with AWS. We are funded by AWS. We get credits. We can work directly with AWS because we are a private entity. You can set, for example, an agreement, maybe for some terms, minimum of at least 2 years or 3 years. So we can put longevity in not only just providing you the procurement services and etc., but also with well structured and well analyzed clauses of agreement to capacitize to forecast the capacity of your consumption if there is an existing utilization. Pero kung wala, we can do some maybe budget alerts, like pag lumagpas na, pwede namin siyang i-disable. So there's a lot of strategies to do that. Maybe those interested parties could send me an email. I'm going to actually share my email here if you guys want to. Actually, it's this. You can send to my executive assistant, and then you can CC me. So we can talk about it if you guys have some. Maybe we can extend another session of meeting with regards to that. But yeah, it's possible. You just have to really have a partner on a private entity, corporation, and so we can move on. So I can see a few other questions. There is Renzo Angelo Bernardo asking, what procurement modality would you recommend? Just the same question. We can probably visit this RA. Hindi ko siya kabisado. Okay. So since we haven't really worked directly with we haven't participated in biddings like this or the usual procedure of public sectors that usually goes through bidding and stuff like that, right? But if there is a way to discuss this, we can definitely go. We have field jobs, but we are not active in participating public sector. But if there's a huge interest, we can definitely consider that. We can discuss it in a different maybe session, more on the focus topic. So another anonymous attendee is asking, good afternoon po. Will the slides be given right after the webinar? Thank you. I can share you a PDF copy to Miss Eileen. Probably she can share with you. There's nothing much really technical there. It's just really high level, but yeah, absolutely. Car Aguila is asking, is the virtual internship free and open for everyone? Yes, it's 100% free, free of cost. You just need to be endorsed by your school. We just need to have an agreement with your school. For those students, okay. We have paid program as well, but that's for private entities. For example, private schools. It's a minimum of I believe 40 students. It costs about something that very minimal. It's not very big, but it's per student. Okay. So how do you manage API endpoints in serverless setup? We use API gateway and some authentication services like Google Auth or any single sign-on capability. You can use also your own like Nextauth. We use Cognito. There is other providers as well. We can do that too. So Manolito is asking, where can we get an API education for starters that are free or not so costly? Well, technically, the resources are always available, but you can always YouTube, you can always Google. These days, the Googles are actually using AI citation, so they will give you the direct answer how to use API. So maybe you can start off with REST API, that would be good. How to design, develop, and secure and manage APIs. So once you learn that, you would be pretty much in good hand to start serverless, because that's your key prerequisite in order to really appreciate the event-driven. Okay. The Honorat Mark is asking, how can we ensure business continuity for serverless systems if regional cloud services go down due to typhoons? Okay, that's a typical question we get. We guarantee you 99.9999119% it's highly available, because it's not, once you build your function, every region in Southeast Asia, for example, for argument's sake, for example, Singapore has 3 availability zones, and each availability zone have scattered edge optimized endpoints across the world. So it's unlikely to be down at any point in time. So even if 1 availability or 2 availability zone go down, you still have your uptime and orchestration behind the scene. So it will not go down. That's the short answer. Saan po ako mag-start ng DevOps journey? Zero po ako in terms of knowledge and experience. Well, DevOps, like I said, it's from zero to hero, it takes you at least 2 years. Not only theoretical, but more of like practical. Kailangan nyo talaga mag-start from learning the pipeline fundamentals first, the CI/CD. Nowadays, it's no longer DevOps. We have modernized to DevSecOps. So may security layer pa siya. Okay, so try to Google it. DevSecOps will help you. And then start to focus on, because to run DevSecOps or DevOps, it requires a big number of overhead to maintain the pool pipeline. So at least maybe tens of people to one team maybe will be managing the CI instance, one thing like Jenkins, one team will be doing the testing and automation, one team will be doing the SysOps, the deployment, the build configuration. So there's a lot of people involved in DevOps. And usually to be all around DevOps, it takes you 2 to 5 years para maging well-versed ka sa DevOps. It's really comprehensive. I think you need a deep technical understanding on maybe some Linux advancements, automations, scripting, shell scripting, bash scripting, bootstrapping, security, Docker networking. You need containerization, how to create containers, how to make network. It's a separate networking as well. How to work with reverse proxies. There's a lot of things to learn to be a DevOps. Okay. So Mark, can we create our own serverless system? It's a nice question. Well, there are ways to do that, but to be that stable might take you a lot of money to do that. A lot of money, not only one server, maybe you need hundreds of servers to be like those cloud providers. Because these are giant techs. They have thousands of data centers across the world, different regions. So yeah. BIRRDCMIN, Edwin Vargas is asking, how can serverless help scale public services during peak demand periods? Okay, good question. When you build lambdas, for example, serverless functions, there is this thing called cold start. There's also this thing called, you have like trade-offs, where you have the runtime, like how much memory you allocate to process that chunk of data, how deep and monolithic is your function, the chain of dependencies that it has to communicate with others. Like I said, do it small, do it often, do it faster. You have to make a very lightweight function in order to have a very scalable function. And para ano niyo yun, ma-achieve niyo yun, you have to tune and configure your memory and yung size of data to be processed. Okay, so nako-configure siya. It's like, let me just check if I can share you something. If you actually Google Lambda configuration and check the configuration settings, there is like yung pwede ka pumili ng runtime, pwede ka pumili ng memory. Like you can assign 512, 128 MB, 512 MB, or 1 gigabyte, depending on the large, the size of the data you're processing. How much are you bringing? How much compute power you need to process how much worth of data? And we always suggest, when we say do it small, ensure if you are using, for example, SQL statement, make sure your SQL is optimized. So may mga tinatawag tayong SQL optimization, like optimize your statement, index it if you have to, then so that you will read from small span of data, which is very focused on a specific, may specific siya. So yun, there are some strategies to do that we also further deep dive when we are in the actual real world scenario. Ano po ang mga requirement to learn serverless skill? Like I said, API development, API design, development, security, and management. What if the bosses aren't open to using serverless? How do you usually handle that? And I think that's for the bosses to handle that. So technically, serverless is not boss driven, or maybe it's a capability. It's one of the so many offerings that cloud providers do. Okay, so it has a pay-as-you-go model. You can use it on your own if you want. You can use it for school. You can use it for agencies. I'm committed to pursuing DevOps role as of now. Any recommendation where to start a roadmap development? I would say you start learning the CI process first. How to deal with Jenkins, how to deal with well, you guys, all of you guys are, if you're a developer, you're using GitHub, right? Or your source code versioning tool. There's a lot. There's Bitbucket, there's GitHub, there's GitLab, there is you name it, right? There's a lot. So you try to understand the cycle of CI first as a developer. Kasi yung CD is more of a sysops na eh. Yung developer side is more of the continuous integration. Then the continuous deployment is on the sysops part, that you need to be knowledgeable in handling servers, managing patches, automations, bash scripting, deployments, testing, and observability, logging, yun. Messaging as well, for example, creating events that will fit your Discord or maybe Slack, yun. So that's how it works. Then when do you determine when use cases? That's I'm not sure if I'm able to understand the question. Pwede naman Tagalogin kung gusto niya. Okay, may not be optimal for certification. Ibig mo ba sabihin, kailan mo masasabi kung anong use case yung hindi optimal para sa serverless? Yes, there are times like that na you won't need to do serverless if your application is too tightly coupled, masyadong malaki yung data, and it might take you months, not years, months to turn into serverless. So there's a pattern. Before you come out of a monolithic architecture, you have to do microservice first. Then from microservice, bibiyakin mo ka sa lahat ng function. Hindi yan agad-agad nangyayari. So you have to have point of failure recovery. So meaning, naka-swivel yung connectivity mo, mag-expose ka ng another pipeline to offload the non-mission critical functions, translating them into lightweight functions para scalable lahat. That way, you will have eventual consistency. Not immediately, but eventual. Leveraging maybe NoSQL databases, in-memory databases. I'm not saying do not use RDBMS. RDBMS is in fact good for things that involve payroll or maybe figures, money, mga ganon, that require high consistency. So accounting, mga ganon. But for user sessions, other aspect, you can use other databases like NoSQL or in-memory. Like MongoDB, ganon, like Redis. Can government procure through reseller? Well, of course you can do, as long as I think there is some difficulty with the government procedure because usually if we are to procure, we need to have capacity to start something small first because the cloud providers do not immediately they do not wait for payments. So it's like something na sobrang automated siya. So everything you use, accounted siya, monthly, kinakaltasan ka na. Siguro we can put window, maybe 2 to 3 weeks time to prepare for the payment. And then we can make like sort of like parang accounting na hindi naman siya immediately lahat na consume, but let's say parang nilo-load mo siya. Parang you have a budget pero hindi mo lahat nilalagay. You set, for example, gradual or incremental budgets, pero naka-long-term parang capacity forecasted siya. We do a projection, so okay, how many people are going to use that in your region? So natin 2 million. Okay, 2 million people, not all of them will use it for sure. You come with the realistic number, maybe 35% will be engaged. But during peak hours, pag mga benefits yan, malamang mapupuno yan. So madami mag-access, right? So during peak hours, we determine those times and we create high availability strategies and metrics to make sure your system will never go down because it can increase the cost, but it will never go down, okay? It depends on how we actually forecast the population and the TPS, traffic per second. We can create absolutely good strategies to come up with some contingency plan, some forecasting and scaling with that. The scaling on the hardware is not on us because it's fully automated. In terms of costing, we can do some cost strategy and cost optimization. That we usually teach that when we have employees. It's not something that we really teach on the internship program because you need a certain degree of prerequisite. Kailangan may mga baseline skill ka sa cloud bago namin turuan yung cost optimization. So yun. Amplify is good. We use Amplify for hosting our applications without, like for example, if you have React or Next.js, you can run it on Amplify. You just have to connect your GitHub and then it will run. That's good. Yes, you can do that. But for the back end, we usually leverage, ang ginagamit namin is Lambdas, API Gateway, SQS, SNS, Event Bridge, and Cognito. So, Ronel, ayan po ang problem sa government, especially sa BD. Need po ng general specs, medyo mahirap ipa. Well, we can help you with technical specification, what you will really need for the first maybe a few months. And then, kasi it's not server eh. Pag serverless kasi, kailangan mo ng parang allowance. It's like, hindi mo kailangan mag-procure ng hardware eh. What you need is consumption usage, which is not just justify siya because we give you billing. And these are accurate. These are not something that, these are real time. We can give you that. Okay. Is PaaS a good alternative to serverless? Well, honestly, we are also one of the companies that launch PaaS. As a matter of fact, this Q4, we are launching 4 PaaS, platform as a service or SaaS. Well, there are pros and cons. Depends from what aspect we are talking about. If as a consumer, well, there are limitations if you're talking about PaaS because you have to maintain subscription from one to another, right? But when you are on a on-demand pay scale, you have no limitation. Yun na nga, medyo mas mahal yung pay per ganito kasi ang rules of cloud. The more you use the cloud, the more you get discounts. So if you don't know how much pa yung capacity mo, you don't know how much you will spike, we suggest go on demand. Kasi para hindi ka obligado, you're not committed to buy long term, di ba? Use it when you want. So ganon. That's the best way. Sana po matulungan ng DICT sa mga yes, I also hope. Okay. If there is credit card, well, yeah, we can. May link po ba? WordPress site receives around 1 million hits daily. Okay. Do you think transition to serverless architecture could help reduce costs? Serverless, but not event-driven. Let me be specific. Kasi medyo ang highlight natin dito is event-driven. So alam ko hindi natin napag-usapan ng microservice because microservice is a bit advancement. It requires advanced knowledge in containerization, in Docker, in SysOps, server management. So to answer you, Oscar, yung 1 million hits a day, na kayang-kaya nang i-maintain yun, basta bibiyakin yung database, ilalagay sa ibang instance. Not a monolithic parang application DB instance server. Because you can run containers by running the application host, web server, in one single container, and then running the database instance like MariaDB or MySQL on another instance, and then let the serverless take care of the scaling. Kapag nakikita niya nagsispikes siya, maglalagay ka na ng monitoring threshold. For example, pag umabot ka na ng resources consumption mo, pag umabot ng, for example, 80%, mag-horizontal scaling siya. Mag-initiate siya ng another container. It will scale horizontally. Mag-scale out siya. That's the... And you only need to scale out yung database. Hindi yung, you give more power. Kumbaga. Thank you. Very insightful talk. We are learning a lot, sir. I may ask what particular soft and hard skills needed by students. Well, we bring people, we have students from 0 to hero. They literally knew nothing. They knew just basic, for example, C++. Then we teach them everything. Kasi for us, the way we teach kasi is kind of different. Unlike schools, that they give you the theory and then they ask you to do analysis and then kind of, mahirap kasi siya i-dissect, diba? Parang mahirap siyang i-ingest kapag hindi ka pa nakapag hands-on. What we do, we don't give the theory. We put them in, parang PUBG, pumaba ka, wala kang mga gamit, di ba? Parang sa mga laro. Maghahanap ka pa ng gamit, di ba? So that's how we do with our interns. We put them there, but we have mentors assigned to them. Para when they want to ask questions, we tell them what to do. When they get to do the practical, then we teach them the theory. That starts to make sense more when we do that. So that's kind of the vice versa of the way schools do. So ganun namin siya ginagawa sa serverless. Serverless is a lot, hindi lang siya event-driven. Under event-driven, there's a lot of design patterns. So pwede niyong tingnan yun. Do you have any other training sir besides this? Well, we have Next.js. We have Google Cloud. That we focus with also serverless then pero under Google Cloud. Pero we are heavy on AWS. Because Amazon Web Services, no bias, but they're by far the best cloud provider in the world. And they hold at least 35 to 40% of global market share. Welcome, would you recommend AWS, Cisco, Azure, MS? Well, it depends, okay? We don't have bias decision here. It's not about the cloud you use, but it's really about how you implement your learning no matter the cloud name, okay? So everything that is in AWS is available also others, but AWS has more maturity frameworks, and they are very fast to evolve, to scale, and to introduce new stuff. Kaya yung sa kanila, sobrang parang may Bible na sila. They themselves have around 10 to 12 specializations that is hard to master. May tinatawag silang golden jacket. Pag nakuha mo lahat ng certification ng AWS, you can be considered as golden jacket. And you will be highly recognized around the world, AWS community. Where or how to teach you out to apply for internship? Like I said, for internship program, you can reach out, send an email. I sent the email address here. We can pin it, and we can start from there. Probably not individually. I suggest if you guys are students, talk to your school admission or registrar, whatever, or faculty program or college dean of, for example, College of Computer Studies, to send us a proposal or maybe send us a request, letter of intent. Probably the best would be letter of intent to partner up for a virtual internship. Then we will accommodate them from there. We have a very good growing Discord community, but it requires a procedure from your school that you have to be officially accepted and endorsed by your school. And we have to sign your documents in a wet copy, wet signature, and then we send it back to your school, and then so that we can accommodate you. And we have been doing this for the past 4 years, so it's not something new for us. In DevOps po, how to start po, mahirap po ba siya sa mga starter? Well, anything, pag hindi ka nahirapan, hindi ka talaga matututo. Yun yung payo ko sa mga medyo may certain degree of fear to learn new stuff. Because sa umpisa lang naman yung mahirap eh. Like for example, when you say mahirap, kasi you're entering in an atmosphere where terminologies and practices are unfamiliar to you, right? So when you get to do the practical, it starts to make sense. Eh? That's why we don't intend to give theoretical training at the beginning. Kaya namin siya tinatawag na virtual remote internship kasi nagbibigay kami instruction, medyo self-paced siya. So nagbibigay kami ng documentation, tapos minsan may mga onboarding kami, tinuturuan namin paano gamitin. Then you guys will be assigned mentors. Your mentors will teach you how to do it, and then we will give you implementation plan. Sometimes may mga code snippet pa yan para makapag-practice ka. Pag nagawa mo na siya, then we will scale the complexity. We will increase the complexity so that you can apply the knowledge practically. Is it recommendable po ba to use serverless architecture when handling very sensitive data? Well, you can, because there are KMS, like I mentioned, key management service or secret managers. You can always take care of sensitive data depending on your data residency requirement. So if it's government data, you can isolate, or maybe you can rent a dedicated server. We can do that. That is assigned for government. We can discuss with the cloud providers to give you that, but it depends on the capacity of the government to comply with the payment method and procurement with them, or come up with a partnership with us. Chester is asking, how much do you earn in this item? Of course, it's not it's an unethical question. We cannot answer that over the call. Sir, okay lang maging OJT kahit work na ako. If you have a work, we need the certainty on your time commitment. Eh. So sometimes kasi yung projects and deliverables are going above and beyond of time. So need mo talaga mag-dedicate ng time. It might affect your work. But we are not against it if you can do parang homework style. Pero kailangan pag maging available ka for Q&A kung kailan lang online yung mga mentors mo, which is usually during office hours. Then we have paid internship, but for those who are already graduated, for example, if you can organize a group of maybe 20 or 15 with reasonable, we can give you a good reasonable package to start with a private internship with us. It takes around 400 hours. Then we give you a company level certification of completing the serverless program. The serverless can take you more or less 400 hours to 500 hours. So depends if you compute 21 days times around 40, how many hours is that? So, ilan ba yan? See. Just check. So 21 times 40, sorry, mali. 40 is 1 week. For 4 weeks pala. 4 times 40. 4 weeks ang isang buwan, diba? Usually 21 days. So 21 times 8 hours a day is 168. So times 3, mga 3 months. Mga 3 months you can do that. Okay, so in truth, J, I have NC2 in programming in senior high school. Yeah, we are not limiting the program. As a matter of fact, we have interns from BA, BSBA. We also have non-technical learning developments, like non-technical path, like for digital marketing. We have SEO, we have content marketing, automation, we have blogs generation, social media marketing. So we have a lot of other, because like I mentioned, we have the digital marketing arm and IT arm. So anybody else? I think I already answered all the question. Anybody wants to raise hand and kind of unmute? You can probably raise hands and then I can start talking to you. Pwede naman Tagalog, huwag kayong mahiya. Baka kasi nahihiya English. Nag-i-English na ako kasi para mas clear yung sagot. Okay. Yes, here. I think we have 5 minutes left. The last 5 minutes. Yeah, somebody is raising hand. Please unmute. So I hope, guys, you learned something from today's call. Thank you for the Tech Talks and DICT Bicol Region, Region 5, for organizing and creating this such a beautiful online event. I hope we provided a good insight and direction to our next generation of young talents, building our nation's future in the coming decades. And sila na yung next generation tech heroes. So again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat sa pag-participate dito sa call. I'm looking forward probably for a copy. Maybe we can have a copy of this, John, the recorded video. Could you share it through maybe Google Drive with us?
Yes po, sir. Noted.
Thank you also, Ma'am Eileen. Huge shout out sa inyo for inviting and my other friends and colleagues. A shout out sa inyo po lahat for referring referring me to the ICT. This is not the end, but also I hope I'm looking forward for more productive discussion and nurturing the next generation talents. Thank you. Yes, you can. Thank you.
Hello, hello. And sorry po, naka-mute po pala ako kanina. So again po, to express our gratitude, we would like now to present a certificate of appreciation to our esteemed speaker. So allow me to read the citation first. Certificate of appreciation is presented to Muhammad Ali Ferreiduni for sharing his invaluable time and wisdom as our resource speaker during the information session titled Serverless Architecture for Enhanced Public Service Delivery, Use Cases for Government Agency on September 30, 2025 via Zoom. Given this 30th day of September 2025, signed by Rachel Ann P. Grabador, OIC Regional Director, DICT Region 5. So once again, sir, thank you po.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day ahead.
And then, for now po, kindly accomplish the evaluation form. So ito po yung link niya and then ilalagay din po namin siya sa chat box. So as we close this session on serverless architecture for enhanced public service delivery, use cases for government agencies, we are reminded that technology is not just about efficiency. It is about creating meaningful impact for our citizens. May today's discussion guides us in building smarter, faster, and more inclusive services that truly respond to the needs of every Filipino. Thank you, and let us continue working together toward a digital government that leaves no one behind. Once again, thank you for attending and participating actively. We also extend our thanks to our speaker and the organizing team behind this session. On behalf of DICT Camarines Norte, we wish you to continue success in your digital services. Thank you po. Once again po, I will remind po na kindly accomplish the attendance part 1 and 2 and then the evaluation form po to receive your certificate. So yung certificate po will be sent to your email. So kindly use a valid email address. So we will send your certificate in 3 to 5 business working days po. Thank you.